You've been working on getting legislation passed, right?
Yes. So, well, last year definitely we got I got multiple pieces of legislation passed, both here and in Louisiana. So, in Georgia, we passed a bill that bans cross-sex hormones and surgeries for minors with gender dysphoria. And we also passed a full ban on medicalization of minors for gender dysphoria in Louisiana. And
Nice.
and then another bill that was tabled last year in Georgia that I spoke on a couple weeks ago. It talks about, you know, not allowing adults to talk about, sex and gender with minors under the age of 16 without parental permission.
And this stuff kind of seems like common sense to me. I don't know why it's such a huge pushback to say, oh, you guys are bigots for not letting me, as a kindergarten teacher, talk to my students about sex and gender ideology and stuff. But what is some of like the pushback you get on that?
Well, the biggest thing is because it all comes down to parental rights. So parents' permission. So when, a lot of what they are trying to say is, you know, a parent doesn't necessarily, like, a lot of people would say that parents don't have necessarily, on the other side would say that parents don't have the right to determine, like, if a child should learn about, sex education. It could be harming their child. And if it comes to, like, sexuality, if they're gay or in the LGBT community, then some parents might not be accepting of that. And so they don't want schools to tell parents when children are having these identity issues, which that alone can be it's very dangerous to think about when you think in and of itself, because like in the state of Florida, one of the reasons why the big Don't Say Gay bill, inaptly named, which was actually named the Parental Choice in Education bill, was passed is because there was a child who was having gender issues. The school knew, and then that child never was able to get the mental health care that they needed, and so the school then, hiding this child's mental health issues, that child attempted suicide twice in 2 days at school, and the parents had no idea. And the reason why the school held it is because they cited the parents' Catholic faith as the reason, thinking that they would not be accepting because they were Catholic.
And that should be considered discrimination. I
Yeah.
mean, we have,
Yeah.
it's so socially acceptable in this country to discriminate against Christians or Catholics and just paint them all with this super broad brush. And I don't think children necessarily need protection from their parents unless there's like some abuse. Like I think
Yeah.
really the only exception, if a child is at school talking to the counselor or teacher, says, if you tell my parents I'm gay, they'll beat me, they'll abuse me, they've been
Yeah.
abusing me. That should really be the exception.
Well,
in
and
my
that's the
opinion.
thing, is that is already a mandatory report.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And so there's already laws on the books to prevent that. So if you really think a child is in danger because because they would come out to their parents, then you really have another route that you are required by law to go. And so they always like to cite that they are worried about, children's mental health, and they like to talk about suicidality so much when it comes to like gender transitions. But then they don't talk about, not allowing children to get mental health care coverage. And it's the parents' responsibility to get them that mental health coverage. I mean, teachers and even counselors at schools, they're not trained therapists. And so they're not trained to deal with these types of issues. They're not trained to help children, emotionally develop and work through these issues that they're having. And gender identity would be a big issue that they would be having.